we were sleeping in like the bottom bedroom, and there was like no other way in. I mean, there's sliding doors on each of the bedrooms, but we would have heard someone come in. But yeah, quite a big figure was kind of like stood over us, and like I just absolutely panicked.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Your Ghost Stories. Just me this week, as this one was an unplanned, spur-of-the-moment episode. Before we talk to tonight's guest, I'd just like to share some exciting news that we had this week by finding out that the podcast has made it into the top 50 UK Apple podcast charts under the documentary category. It's currently sitting at 36. And it's all down to you guys, so thank you to everyone that's listening and tuning in every single week. We only started this show 6 months ago, and everything has been completely organic for us in terms of growth. We're just really enjoying these conversations, and it seems like you guys are too. So thank you so much for giving us a chance as brand new podcasters. Looking into the show's analytics, behind the scenes, I can see that 39% of you guys are not yet following Your Ghost Stories on Apple or Spotify. Do yourselves a solid, never miss another show, and join the other 61% by hitting follow, or even better, if you're feeling extra generous today, you can leave a kind review on your chosen listening platform. Want to interact with us? We'd bloody love that, let me tell you. So come find us on social media at Your Ghost Stories Podcast. Or you can find more about us or get in touch at yourghoststoriespodcast.com.
Your Ghost Stories. Your Ghost Stories.
If you cast your mind back to episode 11, The Diary Under the Floorboards, in this episode, we speak with my partner, Sammy, about what she'd experienced in her dad's house in southwest England. Not only did we hear from Sammy, but her stepmom, Nadine, was also kind enough to send us a voice note telling us about the apparition she saw of a young girl in a white dress on the stairs. Here's the voice note again, in her own words.
As you know, we've lived in Rockmead for over 20 years. Nothing really has ever made me feel like there's anything here at all. But a couple of years ago, I was walking up the stairs and I just noticed ahead of me the feet of a young child. And she was wearing like an old-fashioned long white night dress. And she was going up the stairs ahead of me. And our stairs turn around to the left slightly. And she just went round to the left and just disappeared. I didn't feel frightened or anything at all, which I thought I would do. My husband, Paul, doesn't believe me, but I'm not one for... I'm quite sceptical, I suppose, but I just felt very calm. I wasn't threatened or anything like that. And she just, as I said, just walked up the stairs in front of me. I noticed her feet and the bottom of her white nightie and went round the banister and just disappeared. I've never seen her again. I never feel like there's any sort of malevolent presence in the house. It was a good, always a good feeling here. So yeah, I hope that helps.
To continue with the eyewitness accounts of seeing things in the house, I have another member of the family here with me right now to tell you about what he saw, which indicates most, if not all, of the activity seems to be centered around one small room at the back of the house, at the top of the stairs. I'd like to introduce Collin to the show, who is essentially my brother-in-law. So, Collin, firstly, thanks for joining me and being willing to come on and talk to me about your experiences with the paranormal. I've been looking forward to hearing these stories in detail. If you can take me back to where it all began for you. So have you always believed in ghosts from a young age? Did you have any unexplainable experiences as a child, perhaps?
As far back as I can remember, I was only kind of like young, maybe 4, 5, maybe at a push. Just remember kind of going to sleep at night and kind of waking up sort of halfway through the night, and there'd be like 8 persons sat at the bottom of my bed. And it just kind of always kind of stuck with me, and I think I'd always kind of remembered that. My brother also saw stuff in the house, and then probably kind of spooky, but in his bedroom he had like a rocking chair, and this person also kind of like he would always see him in this rocking chair, so he would be like, my mum said he'd be like terrified to like sleep in his room because he could see this like in the night like sat in this rocking chair. But it turned out to be my dad's dad, and this probably kind of went on for me until I was, I think, around 6 or 7, that I'd kind of constantly see this person like at the bottom of my bed, and I'd always say to my mum, "Oh, my friend come to see me last night," and I never thought anything of it. I just thought it was like a normal, kind of like a normal thing. And then probably quite a few years went by. Obviously, it kind of being young didn't really think anything of it. But then as I kind of got older, I'd kind of like have experiences. I wouldn't necessarily see stuff, but I'd kind of always feel like there's someone or something in the room, like kind of like, I don't know, hard to explain. Kind of like not a spirit as such, but I just kind of get that kind of uncomfortable feeling that either someone stood behind me or watching over me, or kind of someone there. If it'd be like in an old house or in a garden with the work doing, like, landscape garden, if you're in like an old house, and you'd always feel like there'd be someone sort of like looking out a window, and you kind of always feel a bit weird wherever you kind of go. But it's probably like early 20s when I really started to kind of get like feelings back again for kind of seeing things, as well as like just kind of sensing more things. Off the top of my head, me and Megan, my partner, we went to New Zealand in 2012, and obviously New Zealand's quite a spiritual kind of place, and we stayed at my uncle's place. He's kind of like north of the South Island, and he was a farmer, so he lived literally in like the middle of nowhere, and we were kind of like an hour away from kind of the closest shop or any kind of like civilization, if you could call it that. And we were both asleep one night, and it must have been about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden we heard like a door slam shut, and it wasn't just like a normal door slam shut. It was literally like someone was trying to rip the hinges off the door, and it was like the bathroom door, which was kind of like, the bedrooms are in a corridor, and it's kind of like, not far from our room, so it was definitely like enough to like wake you up. We both didn't say anything to each other until the morning. So Megan said, "Oh, did you hear that last night?" I was, yeah. We brought it up with my mum, and Mum was like, "Yeah, I went to the toilet in the middle of the night." I was like, "Mum, you're like 4'0". There's no way that you managed to, slam a door that hard at like 3 o'clock in the morning." And this kind of like little things would go on. A couple of nights later, I woke up and like, again, kind of middle of the night, woke up and looked up, and there was a body like stood over us, and we were sleeping in like the bottom bedroom, and there was like no other way in. I mean, there's sliding doors on each of the bedrooms, but we would have heard someone come in. But yeah, quite a big figure was kind of like stood over us, and like I just absolutely panicked and was like, closed my eyes, like just didn't want to open them again, just like closed my eyes as tight as I could. It was definitely spooky. And then after this, my mum openly admitted that one night she was sleeping with the curtains open, and there was a washing line that kind of ran across all the bedrooms, kind of like a log cabin type house with sliding doors at each of the bedrooms. And she said she woke up and she could see like a guy in dungarees stood outside the window, and because my uncle's a dairy farmer out there, she just thought, because it was early in the morning, that he was hanging the washing up. So she didn't think anything of it. Woke up in the morning, no washing hanging out on the line. So she had seen probably what was maybe the same person that I saw a few nights previous. Kind of similar kind of description. Kind of stood outside her window, which is pretty weird. And then we'd kind of spoken to my uncle about this, and he had a few experiences in the house. He'd been locked in his bedroom. He said he was locked in there for about 2 or 3 hours. It was a very, very spooky place, because it was literally in the middle of nowhere. A bit of a surreal kind of thing to kind of like witness as well. And then from there we moved back down towards Christchurch, and this is where Megan actually we stayed in I can't remember, it's like a motel or something like that. And she woke up in the night and saw like a young girl at the bottom of the bed. And I think she had the same, similar, closed her eyes and hoped for the best. But she didn't tell me that until I think we got home. I think she felt like stuff was rubbing off from me onto her. But yeah, no, that was kind of the main things from New Zealand. It was kind of quite full on, to be fair.
You've clearly had your fair share of paranormal experiences. So not everyone, has experiences throughout their lives. Not a lot of people are believers. Someone that first meets you, they wouldn't suspect you to be kind of someone that believes in the paranormal or believes in ghosts, because I think there's a certain stigma attached to that. But and yeah, yourself, you're a builder, you're into football. I'm sure a lot of your friends would probably take the piss out of you for telling these stories, and I've never heard you tell these stories, and I've known you for 2 years, and yeah, it's taken 2 years to get these stories out of you, because I know you're not a fan of all this stuff, and you don't kind of enjoy it, whereas I've got a podcast about it and I enjoy listening to the stories. But yeah, the things that have happened to you, they don't sound nice, and yeah, why would you want to see that in the middle of the night, stuff like that. But yeah, so do you think you maybe have some kind of sixth sense, or your family are kind of susceptible to spirit energy? Or
yeah, definitely. My mum, I'd definitely say it's come from my mum. She's always kind of she classed herself as, is it a white witch? She's always kind of classed herself as that. She says she's got healing hands, and she's shown me a few times. We used to have, like, kind of going off a bit. We had like a neighbour's cat who was very ill, and she'd put her hands on the cat, and her hands would literally be like red hot. So I'd definitely say it's like, come from my mum. And it's kind of like a weird thing, like you say. Never really talk about it, but as soon as I do talk about it, I absolutely love hearing about other people's story, because like I believe in ghosts, I believe in spirits, I believe in all that kind of paranormal stuff. I 100% believe in it. But like you say, a lot of people, they kind of, because they've not experienced it, they don't believe it, or they won't believe it. But I think over time, people, they will come across something, whether it's just something they don't want to believe, or they've sent something and won't believe it. But it's definitely real. Same as the UFOs and stuff like that. So no, completely different, but it's a similar kind of, you either believe in them or you don't. Within reason, everyone has a story if they're into that, or if they believe in it.
Yeah, exactly. Like you say, everyone's got a story. That's half the reason we started this podcast in the first place, because everyone and their nan has a story to tell. You've got one more story to tell us, which is going back to one of our older episodes when we had Sammy, your sister-in-law, on, my partner, and she was telling us about something that she'd experienced in her dad's house. And we also heard the voice note earlier on in the episode from Nadine, Sammy's stepmom, who had seen something in the house. And you yourself have seen something in the house. And I've not heard this story from you. I've only heard little bits from Sammy. And so yeah, it's all yours.
Your ghost stories. Your ghost stories.
I don't think me and Megan had been together that long, so we'd been to Rockmead quite a few times. Had heard previous stories of, kind of it being an old house for a start. lots of other kind of stories have been told of, cold rooms and friends that didn't like the room, and this kind of quiet room is at the back of the house, right next door to the toilet. So I'd got up again in the night to go to the toilet, and I just kind of felt a bit like, kind of like I get kind of not tingly, but I guess probably the best way to describe it is sort of like a tingly back. And I kind of like got up, went to the toilet, opened the door, shut as I come out, shut the door, and I could see there was like an outline of like a white kind of figure stood as I shut the door. And again, kind of like panicked slightly, I guess, because I was like, whoa, there's someone kind of like stood there. But at the same time, I was like, if anything was, if it was anything that say wanted to do anything, then something would have happened. But obviously nothing did. But it's always kind of it's not, I don't know, I think sometimes you get a good feeling and a bad feeling, but I've never, especially in Rockmead, I've never had that kind of like bad feel. It's kind of, again, a fun, some people understand it, some people won't. I think you can sometimes get that energy of, it doesn't feel quite right, or sometimes it's like this feels like, they've come with no hard feelings as such. They've just come to let themselves be known.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. I mean, I've stayed in that house, a couple of times a year. We stay there as well, and I feel like I can kind of get a good sense of if there's a good vibe or a bad vibe. And in that house, there's never any bad energy. Where I used to live with my mum and stuff, it wasn't necessarily a bad energy, but something wasn't right there, and I always had that feeling someone was watching. But in Rockmead, it's quite comfortable, and so it's good to know that we can stay there in peace. It's been such a pleasure to get you on and to hear your stories, and really appreciate you sharing them with us. So now we're just going to go downstairs and eat some lasagna.
Perfect. Thank you very much.